From the director that brought us Grabbers, Unwelcome is about married couple Maya and Jamie who escape their urban nightmare to the tranquillity of rural Ireland only to discover malevolent and murderous goblins lurking in the gnarled ancient wood at the foot of the new garden. So I saw this trailer for this film about 2 years ago, and then it was put back and it kind of went into oblivion, and when it eventually came out at cinemas, it was there for a week or two, barely noticeable, almost no marketing, which I think is a shame because it has an interesting premise. I do think the film is interesting and I enjoyed it. I just wish I hadn't seen the last 5 minutes of the film. This is classic. Film kind of knows what it's doing but doesn't quite know how to stick the landing, losing the plot at the end of the film. If you understood it or understood what was going on, then I think you're going to be a top tier person who understands the craziness of what they're trying to do. I will be talking about the ending of this film, but for now this is non-spoiler, and then I'll do kind of an ending explained, and maybe we can chat in the comments without doing spoilers. Let everybody know you're going to talk about the ending. Spoilers ... Let's jump in. So as I mentioned, from the director of Grabbers, we have a very interesting mix here of something like critters and gremlins mixing with a bit of Eden Lake. And when it comes to the fantasy element, the filmmaking I think is done really well. It is mystical, it has a mystical element, the wild luscious lands of Ireland, the woods creepy, really well filmed, has spades of atmosphere. And all of these sort of hyper-realistic shots, sometimes sharper in the fantastical element of it, those bits I loved. And with the score kind of heightening the sense or the sensations you're meant to be feeling at that moment, the airiness, the weirdness, the fantastical, that all stuff, the lore I loved. In fact, when you see the creatures, it kind of loses all, I guess, horrific elements that you thought you might have. It's like when you see the gremlins for the first time. They can be scary in places, but you're mostly laughing at what they're getting up to. Same with critters, like they might tear a person limb from limb on screen, but you're never really scared of them. And that's kind of the feeling I had with these guys. You don't know whether you should be finding them scary or having them on your side. Are they the good guys or the bad guys? So it does keep a bit of air of surprise in the storyline. For me, the scariest things in this movie were the people. We start out with that thing with why they wanted to leave, rural England. Rural, wow, my R's, like Jonathan Ross, rural England, to go to Ireland to, get some peace. But it's the people on both sides of, I was going to say the pond, both sides of the land, from rural to Ireland, that are the scariest here. And if you've seen Eden Lake, there are moments in this film that reminds me of moments in this film that reminds me of moments in Eden Lake, that I was thinking to myself, wow, that is really creepy. The people are so much scarier because they're capable of so many more horrific things. The way they think about how they're going to hurt you or what they're going to do, the vindictive nature of people portrayed in films is often way more vicious than the monsters that are on screen. And that was the case for me here. So I was more scared of the people than I was of the monsters. I was more intrigued with the monsters, with what I wanted to see about the lore. It's their leprechaun lore, but not that. It's like a realistic look at these fabled creatures, the redcaps. And I think that bit of the film you're going to find interesting. So for me, without going into the ending, which I'll talk in a moment, I think the acting is good. We have someone that you've probably recognized from a fantastic sci-fi series, Hannah John Kamen. She was fantastic in Killjoys. She was also in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon as Jill Valentine. She was in Ant-Man and the Wasp as Ava. She plays the part really well as both, husband and wife trying to start a new life from where they've come from a harrowing experience. I believe them in their partnership and the strains that they have in their marriage because of what has happened at the beginning of the movie, showcasing this little town that seems really quaint and beautiful, and some of the people, and you kind of want to be there until you don't want to be there. That all works really well between the directing and the acting. It's just those last 5 minutes which I'm going to talk about now. Suffice to say, I would give this 2.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
And you got one. Congratulations.
It would have had a higher mark if it wasn't for the ending. All right, spoilers and ending talk. Okay, so when we get to the last 5 to 10 minutes of it, we understand that the Red Caps need someone to be their queen, I guess, the person that is in charge of them. That's what I'm making out. That's why they need a baby to raise, to look after, to kind of tell them what to do. Down in that old, I guess it's an old, like an igloo but made out of bricks, an old structure where they live undergrounds in the tunnels. They've taken a baby that was there from that's actually their family. You know, the baby that went missing, that is her grown up, and she's become their controller or their queen. That's how I understood it. And there needs to be this ceremony, and that's what we see getting transferred. Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, I don't know if Maya gets to be with her child, because she now needs to be with the Red Caps and go into the forest. There's this whole supernatural element where the skull is floating in the air and blood is falling down. We have a red sky for no reason, but there's something supernatural going on. So where there's been real world element and elemental creatures through we've not seen like any real magic apart from them, you know, the fact that they exist and they're creatures and they live and they're just different, until that moment really where we see the supernatural, I guess, something happening, and she becomes their mother queen, whatever you want to call her, and she embraces the craziness as they both laughing there at the end. And I'm just thinking to myself, get that baby out of the rain, you know, the baby's gonna get ill. So as far as I can see, with how it ends, the husband has to raise the child on his own as she goes off into the woods and looks after these leprechaun creatures. I guess they can have visiting days. Let me know your thoughts on the ending, what you would explain, how it ended. Did you enjoy it, or did you think they just lost the plot there at the end? Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long Tuesday.